We have needed window coverings in our bedroom for years. And the problem has been that the windows are not a standard size. So anything at the store, even the longest curtains, are not as long as our windows. And I didn't have the skill to sew curtains at all for many years. I learned to sew like just a couple of years ago. And then I finally taught myself how to make Swedish blinds, and I made them for our one room in our house. And I just have had to work up the courage to make them for this room. And I finally did it. My husband was finally like, I can't stand it anymore. Like, we had light blocking shades on tension rods, and you could never open them because the tension rod would fall down because the paint on the windows is kind of slick. So finally he was like, get those curtains made. I can't stand it anymore. Like, moon comes and shines in the window, and it's just too bright. So I had been researching like crazy what kind of fabric I wanted to use because it's so much window, it's a ton of fabric, and so the cost really starts to add up. But I got this unbleached muslin from Hobby Lobby when they ran their every other week their fabric's 40% off, as some of you probably know. So that was like the lowest cost fabric that I could find, but I really like it. I really like muslin. I think it's a beautiful fabric. And then Joann's was running like a Black Friday sale or something. They had really good sales on their backing. So I got this backing fabric that's insulated, and it's light blocking. It's not total blackout, but we didn't want total blackout. So it's a light blocking insulated fabric. And I got that on sale as well. And I had all my measurements ready. I had it in my on the notes on my phone for probably over a year, so I was ready. And I went out and I got this stuff that I needed. And then my next challenge was the space. So I actually had to extend my dining room table out to its longest. Thankfully, I have a really long dining room table, and I cut the curtains there because otherwise it was just impossible. I actually tried to do one on a bed, and it's just impossible to get the straight lines that you need and all of that. But it worked really well in here. So measuring these is the most challenging part. Once you have everything measured and pinned, you are good to go, but you have got to measure twice and cut once, as they say. And the first couple that I made a mistake where I had figured the windows are 75.5 inches long. So I thought if I made them, the curtains, if I hemmed them to 75.5 inches, that would be good. But when I put them up in the window, I don't know if it was just, slight miscalculations or what, but they were, instead of kissing the window sill, which is like the optimal thing, you want your curtains to just barely kiss the windowsill, they are hanging up a little high, like floodwaters, like high water pants. So I was pretty chagrined about that, but they were already installed in the window, and I decided that we would learn to live with it. And that only happened with about one and a half of them, and then the other two I waited, and I didn't sew in the dowel rod to the bottom, and I left a bit of extra, and I measured more carefully, so I left more, so they were like 80 inches long when we hung them in the window. So then I just sewed in the dowel rod by hand once they were in the window, which worked out much better. So I got what I needed. But just having them there in their imperfect state reminds me of how I am still learning. And I'm glad this is in our bedroom and not a more public room of the house. And they definitely work for the purpose that we needed them for. So I'm just going to accept the imperfections. I think that's something that when you are getting into DIY, you the vision in your head is so great. And then when you start putting it into reality, it doesn't always work out the way, often doesn't. Your first projects can just be ugly, downright ugly, and not what you want at all. But, just keep going. Don't let go of your vision. Like for me, I had 4 chances to get this right, and I'm not sure, but hopefully, in a few years, I'll be able to revisit it and do remake curtains again, and that'll be great as well. So I'm just accepting the imperfection for now and enjoying the fact that I've got light blocking shades on my windows that are custom, that I made myself, and total, the whole thing with the little materials and the fabric probably cost $60 or $70 as opposed to hundreds and hundreds of dollars for custom shades. So I'm happy. I've made progress. If you're interested in doing a Swedish blind, I have a involved tutorial in another video. I'll make sure to share that if you want all the measurements and how to and everything like that, because they really are, if you can sew a straight line, I promise you can make these, and they're very minimal and pretty, and they're a classic window covering. They're called Swedish blinds. I think you can find them in other countries too, but they use them a lot in Sweden. And if you look at pictures of Swedish castles and things, they are even hanging on the windows in a grand castle. So they're a very humble fabric shade, but they're in the grandest of buildings, and they can look absolutely terrific. And the best thing about them, I think, now these I've sewed are pretty plain, but the ones in the guest room where I am sewing, which is also doubles as my sewing room, as many people's guest rooms do, I think, you can put a contrasting fabric on the back, and then you have this really fun thing. When you roll it up, you get that contrast on the back. So let me show you how they turned out. Here they are hanging in the window, and you pull the strings, and then the first couple times you have to train the fabric so that it'll roll. So that's what I'm doing here, is just training the fabric to roll up nice and neatly and smoothly when I pull the strings. And then I'll have a little cleat that I'll attach to the side. It's like clear plastic so you can't see it, and I'll wind the string around there. A note on the strings, obviously, be very, very careful with them around children. Don't leave them dangling so that kids could grab them. We had an experience in our own house with our Roman shades where our daughter did one time, right in front of my eyes, tangled her neck up in the blind cord, and my son worked so quickly to save her. But ever since that time, I've been very, very safety conscious, and I will roll these extra strings on a plastic blind cord winder, and then hook it up to the side with a cleat. And that keeps the strings pretty much out of the way. If you're really worried about safety, you shouldn't have exposed strings at all on window coverings, but I feel like I've taken enough precautions, and my kids are older now, and this is my bedroom and not their room. But yeah, I just want to mention that because when I made my tutorial, I had a lot of comments about safety, and I do want to address that. It's definitely something you want to keep in mind and draw your own conclusions about as you're thinking about what you might want to do for window coverings. Okay, caveats out of the way. Here's the one on the other side. This is the one that when I stapled the fabric to the batten, I guess the staple gun kind of moves the batten, and I didn't realize that, and I ended up stapling it on a little bit crooked, and I didn't notice, and then it was a little too short as well. So this one is my, oh well, it's a little crooked and a little short at the bottom, but it's also a window where I have pillows for kind of a window seat. So I don't think it's going to show too much. And I just love the way that it's rolling up and fitting in the window. The thing I love about the Swedish blinds, I love everything about them actually, but I love how they let the pretty moldings around the window show. So it's not like a curtain where you're covering up, maybe if you've got pretty woodwork. These just are very discreet and minimal. And I think they work, they're a very traditional covering, but I think they work really well in modern homes too, because they're really a minimal window covering. And you can see, like, I'll have a little cleat there, I'll wind it around, and then it'll just stay up if I want it up, or down if I want it down. I was racing to get those done and wrap up the kids' schoolwork before our Christmas holidays. It was just Christmas has just crept up on me this year. I don't know about any of you, but I feel like all of a sudden it's right around the corner. And I rushed to get those done, and getting up early, staying up late, like a night or two. And then the first sunny day we've had so many clouds. The first sunny day we had, that it was warm enough, I ran outside to start foraging my greenery. One amazing thing about living in the country, it never gets old. I've been here a while now, but we've got so much just growing wild on our property that you can forage for Christmas, and it is such a luxury to just be able to get as much as you want of this stuff for decoration. It's like free decor. Oh, it's so much fun, and I never get tired of it. We have these cedar trees that they grow like weeds all over. like all over the property. They really are weeds, and but they're great. They're beautiful. I love how they look. They're very southern. It's a very classic southern look. The cedar. They do get very, very pokey. Unfortunately, they're not a soft evergreen. So I understand why they're not like the main evergreen you see everywhere, because when they start to dry out, they are really cruel if you touch them. But I ran out and I grabbed some cedar in my wheelbarrow. And also, we have these boxwoods that are way overgrown, and I do need to figure out what to do. But boxwood grows extremely well here, and these have just gotten, they're not pruned and they're big, and it's just been really low down on the list of priorities, except that I've been harvesting them for Christmas decorations for years now. And there's also a few holly trees as well. The holly doesn't get its berries till much later on, but they are a really pretty green, and I think if you're doing greens, a good rule of thumb is to have at least 3 different kinds, which for me, just on my property, is boxwood and holly and cedar, and that does pretty well. And then if you don't have all the foraging that I do, one idea is to ask the neighbors. Like this year, for example, for the first time, I was like, I'm kind of tired of just doing boxwood, and I really secretly I had my eye on these gorgeous magnolia trees that grow in front of our church. They must be 200 years old, and they are stunning, but I didn't want to take any, and I was also too shy to ask. So I decided to just put it out there on Facebook, and I just asked if anyone had a magnolia tree that they wouldn't mind if I came and got some branches for Christmas. And actually, the administrator at our church got in touch with me and said, "Oh, you can just take some. Please feel free." And I was so happy. And so then I got to go over there with permission and grab some magnolia and also some Norwegian spruce, which is a beautiful, soft evergreen. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Just put it out there on Facebook or ask your neighbors who've got evergreen trees if you could take some things from them. And you might be really pleasantly surprised like I was this year. The other thing that I think is just get faux greens, which they're gorgeous. I mean, you can get ones that look really realistic. They keep getting better and better. They do get kind of expensive. So I'm planning to someday buy them in after Christmas sales. I haven't yet. I just keep foraging out of my yard. But I think it would be nice actually to have a base of faux greens and then just accent them with picks of the real stuff so that you don't have to get tons and tons of it. I have kind of an unlimited supply, but it goes really fast once you start decorating. You're like, oh wow, it looked like I had a ton and now it's all up there and I need more. So if you had fake things, then you could just put a little bit of the real stuff in and to fill it out and fluff it out. And I think that might be really the best of all possible worlds there. I got all my greens in, but I didn't have a chance to do anything with them yet for the house because it was time to get ready for St. Lucie Day. If you're not familiar, that is the 13th of December, and it's traditionally celebrated in a big way in Scandinavia, and we've got Scandinavian heritage over here. It was one of my mother-in-law's favorite holidays, so to honor her and just for our own enjoyment, I also have a Kirsten doll from the American Dolls collection, and she has a St. Lucie Day outfit, which is how I first learned about it. So the tradition is the oldest girl of the house wakes up the rest of the family on December 13th wearing this crown of candles and brings everyone hot chocolate and coffee and buns. And it's really fun. So my oldest daughter has been doing it for several years now, and her little sister is her sort of attendant. So we have a lot of fun with it. And we hand make the crown, and we use these battery operated candles. And in Sweden there's a traditional kind of bun you're supposed to make. We haven't quite managed to make that yet. It's a saffron bun, but hopefully next year. But this year we decided to make sticky buns. We made these the night before from an Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day recipe, which is my favorite bread book. It makes bread baking completely effortless, pretty much. No kneading required. Love it. So we made these the night before, so we didn't have to get up quite so early. And then we kind of stumbled awake at 6:30, my oldest and I, and we made a pot of hot chocolate. And then she went and got into her costume and went around the house waking everybody up. pie. Our sticky buns. My mom harvested the last of her cherry tomatoes and brought them down to me at Thanksgiving. She asked me if I wanted them, and I said sure. And so I have heard that green tomato pie tastes exactly like apple pie, and I really wanted to give it a try. And so I had enough green tomatoes to do it. And I think my husband says, and I think that it tastes pretty much exactly like apple pie. So it was an interesting experiment. There's all kinds of things you can do with green tomatoes. Like you can make a savory pie with them as well, apparently. But this one was sweet with sugar, and it was delicious. Finally, after St. Lucie Day festivities were all over, I felt like I could start thinking about decorating the house for Christmas. And I always start in my bedroom because Christmas gets so busy and hectic, as you all know. And I feel like if our room is clean and festive, that it's always this retreat and oasis that I can go to during the holiday season. So I got out my flannel sheets for the season and made our bed with our flannel sheet set. From these are really old. We've had them for many years. They're from Target. They've got red snowflakes on them, so they're very festive. And then I layered up our bed with lots and lots of cozy blankets. It's really cold here right now for Kentucky. We've gotten like an earlier winter than we usually do. So I put on two quilts, this brown one and this gold one, which the gold works really, really well for Christmas time. And then this really fuzzy silvery blanket on top of that. And then this Christmas quilt that a friend of my mother's made for us. So this time of year is just all about being as cozy and layered up as possible. And I think it just makes everything better. I never feel like I've gotten my pillow arrangements on my bed quite right. For one thing, I use this special pillow that's flat and it's a really funny shape. I have it covered with a flannel right now. It is the most amazing pillow for if you're a side sleeper and you have neck pain like me. I'm actually affiliate for the company. I'll link them down below. It would make a wonderful Christmas gift if you've got someone like that in your life. I've been using this for 7-8 months now, and it is my favorite pillow of all time. It is wonderful. But then my husband still uses, 2 pillows and maybe 3. And so it makes the bed look funny, I think, because I've just got the one flat on my side. So I put these Euro shams in front, which are okay. I think I need fluffier pillows in here or something. And then I'm never really sure I like Euro shams anyway, because then when you go to bed at night, you have to move them and it's kind of a pain. I love having the pillows in front. Like I love how the whole thing looks all together, but I wish there was some way to have your bed look beautiful and not have a bunch of pillows that you also had to throw onto the floor. So, or into a basket or onto a bench. So it's something I've been thinking about and I haven't quite solved it, but if any of you have ideas, I would love to hear them, because it's like, do I get a bolster or something? I don't know. I feel like this is something that needs to be examined, but our bed is warm and cozy and layered, and I can finally turn my attention to the really fun thing, which is decorating my mantle. I am really lucky in that this is a really old house, and we have a fireplace right in our bedroom, and I have a lot of fireplaces throughout the house. All of them work, but a mantelpiece is a lot of fun to decorate, and I got some really not really new, but like I got some great ideas from this article I stumbled across from the New York Times about Bunny Williams and how she decorates her mantles, and she gave some pro tips, and I took some of her tips as inspiration, and I'll show you what I came up with. I put my greens in buckets so I could easily carry them up the stairs to my room. I brought all 4 kinds. I've got magnolia, Norwegian spruce, boxwood, cedar. Okay, I have 5. And then I have some holly as well. And I started by taping branches, like bigger branches, to the mantle with just masking tape, which will not destroy your paint job at all. base layer, and I had them all pointing so they're kind of drooping downwards. And I honestly, I would have put them drooping down farther, but I knew my husband would not want that. He'd be really concerned about the fire safety. But if this wasn't a real fireplace, I'd have them drooping way farther down. But once they were on there, the base layer, then I took some boxwood and some holly and some cedar, and I just started adding in to add texture and interest from the different shades of green and all those different leaves. I added big bunches of magnolia to each corner. And it just looked so different from what I'm used to. I really like it. It's a much more southern look. It's very traditional in the South to use magnolia to decorate at Christmas time. And when I first moved here, it looked so exotic to me. Now I'm used to it, but it still looks pretty exotic. The third step after putting down a base layer and then adding in texture was to add sparkle and shine. So we have a lot of photographs on this mantle, so I started adding back in framed pictures, but also some ornaments. I piled up ornaments in these blue glass jars that I've had forever, and I added a few other sparkly things. And gold, I kind of went with just using gold and not a lot of other colors as I did all of this time. But whatever ornaments you have, think about your tree ornaments. They look awesome in mantelpieces. You can just kind of tuck them in and they just add interest and sparkle and shine. Or other things that you might happen to have that are interesting, little statuettes, framed pictures. I wish I had some little battery powered lights to tuck into here. Maybe another year I'll get some of those. And just keep playing with it until it looks right to you, until there's like enough sparkle and shine. So I just kept adding things until I had it sparkly and shiny enough. And then I stepped back and admired it. Dollar Tree has really good ribbon, and it usually sells out and gets pretty picked over, but I'm sure there's still some if you run down. I got this gold ribbon last year there, and I just kind of draped it around all of my sparkly things just to add a little bit more body, a little bit more sparkle. Is decorated for Christmas, so I am now ready to take on the rest of this festive yet strenuous season. I would love to hear from you. What kind of things do you do to take care of yourself and get ready for all of the duties and responsibilities, as well as all of the joy of the holidays? Let me know down in the comments, and I hope that these tips for mantle decorating, as well as for how to make Swedish blinds and maybe green tomato apple pie have inspired you this season, and I will look forward to sharing more of my decorating in the upcoming couple of weeks. Take care. Bye for now.